练习方法和错误纠正，使所有高球爱好者。
And Julian, you know, in China, there's been a huge talk about the prices of housing, how expensive it is.
Yes.
How, you know, the government has introduced all the policies to control the going up trend of the prices. Beijing, Shanghai, or Shenzhen, these are the cities, not the cities with the most expensive prices of housing.
Not in the world.
Not in the world.
No, not in the world. No.
But still, it's high enough. But you know, if put it in the international scene, we have a chart to share with you. We'll know the 10 most expensive cities in the world. So
For
take a
real
guess.
estate.
Take a guess.
Yes.
For
London, I'm sure, is in there.
New York.
New York.
Yeah.
Paris.
I know Monte Carlo, Switzerland, those are very expensive too. Dublin is expensive.
What about Paris?
Moscow. Paris is up there.
Yes.
Moscow, I think Paris is even after London.
Tokyo.
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 Hong Kong is more than Tokyo, I know.
Yeah.
Hong Kong is more expensive.
Do you think Beijing will be in that list,
No.
the top 10?
Okay,
No.
my guess, Beijing is not even in the top 20.
Take a look. Number 1 in that chart,
I got that one.
Monaco.
Yeah.
Monte Carlo, nearly 50,000 US dollars.
Per square meter.
Per square meter.
You still buy a studio in Beijing for that price, for a meter.
This is in London.
Okay. Yeah.
So, whoa. So it's
half the price.
Monte Carlo, it's way, way ahead.
Yeah. But that's still almost 20,000 US dollars for square meters.
It's outrageous.
Wow.
Hong Kong.
Hong
But
Kong.
we've seen houses, say, in Shanghai about that price. I mean, there has to be,
A few ones.
yeah.
This would be average price?
Yes.
No, I guess so,
No,
yeah.
this is average.
Average
Should
price.
be average, yeah. This is New York, Russia,
Yeah, Moscow.
or as high, nearly as high as
About
in
the
New
same
York.
as New
yeah.
York.
Yeah, it should be average. Paris.
Is it?
Paris is. I don't think it's that
Higher than
high.
that?
I don't think it's
not
as
that
high as that.
Okay.
It was around, I think, $10,000.
10,000. So that.
Well, yeah, Tokyo's up there, 12,008. I would have thought Tokyo would be higher than that.
I think Tokyo must be higher than Paris. I don't know.
Singapore.
Yeah.
It's tough to buy real estate in Singapore anyway. Not much available. India, yeah, Mumbai.
Or Mumbai.
Wow, India has really. Wow. Switzerland.
Geneva.
Geneva's a nice place, and they speak French. Very nice. And it's close to France. I should buy a house there.
And Shanghai, in the 23rd place.
You see?
Ah, okay.
So the
you were
average,
right,
the average
Sudan.
price is about 5,400. So yeah, roughly the price.
Yeah.
That is the information that we've got from a website. This is Global Property Guide. So, you know, that's the information you can also get access to. And different cities, I guess, have different reasons for the increase of the prices. I guess in London now it's the Olympics.
Of course.
In 2 years' time.
You know what?
course.
You know, in China, the average income is sometimes, let's say the average housing prices in Paris are 15,000 US dollars, and the average in Shanghai, Beijing is 5,000 US dollars. So it's 3 times difference. But the difference in salary is much bigger than that. So Chinese people, it's interesting to have those discussions because you have to take so much stuff into consideration.
Absolutely.
They say, well, yes, but we Chinese people, even in the cities, the income we have, our salaries didn't grow that much. So
Exactly.
it's a real problem. But it's interesting to see that also, let's say French people, my mother, and I guess American people too, they don't really save money. My mother, when sometimes she needs like 2,000 euros, she borrows from me. And
What about back in France?
Doesn't save.
Because in China, it seems the whole society, everyone in the country feels the pressure of the house, of the housing price.
Yeah, and that's
Do
interesting.
you feel
also.
the pressure?
Well, here's the thing, though, is in China, it's very much, you're expected to buy property. Like, it's very much a part of all kinds of things. You know, if you want to get married, if you're a guy and you want to find a wife, you need to own an apartment or own a, usually it's an apartment in China.
Property.
Property, own something. Whereas in the States, especially among young people, there isn't that kind of pressure
It's
to
like a
buy
dream,
something.
maybe, but
Yeah, you might have a sort of like a long-term goal. Maybe one day I want to own my own house. But renting, I would say, especially among younger people, is much more common than buying property.
Is there an average age of people, say, starting to own a house?
I don't. Oh, it's tough
I'm
to
sure
say.
there's an average age, but
It's more. I think it's more because some people rent a house for their whole life, and many people do that. So it's more about, I think, sometimes different fields, people having different conditions or opportunities. Chinese people usually have savings more, or at least they have the habit of having savings. They always find a way to live really, really simply and not spend too much, and really, really eat at home as much as possible and eat vegetables and really cheap stuff. Because they have to save. They don't have the social security we have in Europe. So it's so many different habits to take into considerations. And also the fact that, okay, we earn a lot more in France, for example, but don't forget that, same as in the States, maybe to buy one broccoli is much higher price than to buy a Big Mac in the States now. So it's totally different than China.
yeah.
Where vegetables, fruit, stuff like that is still cheaper. So the reason why it's also as tough to buy a house in the West than it is in China is because we can't have savings. We have to spend it all on simple stuff every day.
There is another reason, actually, we've said that many times in this show. It's basically Chinese people have that tradition of owning a house, and that gives people the feeling of safety, being safe, you know, alive, the securities.
Yeah.
You know, and that is also the place that will give you the sense of belongings. You know, you have a place. If you have a place, a house in the city, that means, okay, you are indeed, you know, a part of this city.
Yes.
There's another thing that goes the way Chinese people, especially on, you know, on the Weibo Chinese Twitter, we've been discussing that a lot. And some people who, you know, I've been answering back and forth, and they say, well, but you earn more money, and we have so low salaries that it's even more expensive. I mean, I said the reasons why it could be harder in the West, but there's one reason for which China is really, really tough, which is renting a place now is much cheaper. Let's say in Beijing. Shanghai is a little higher, but in Beijing, it's much cheaper compared to buying a place. The ratio, I saw the ratio on CCTV News a few months ago, and in many cities such as London, Paris, Tokyo, renting a place, the difference between renting a place and buying a place, there's a ratio of 1 for 20. And in Beijing, it's around 1 for 50. Which means that you rent a 100 square meter place in Beijing, it's going to be fairly cheap to rent it. And many times, for example, the place I'm living in, if I wanted to buy it, I would have to, it's the equivalent of 7 years of rent.
You know, the thing is, when the ratio is small to some extent, and then people will say, okay, anyway, I'm paying out this amount of money every month.
Exactly.
And if I've managed to collect the first lot for a mortgage, then it's like I'm buying my house.
Even borrowing money.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And I know a lot of people that, you know, I rent. I haven't bought an apartment in Beijing, but a lot of people said, well, you're putting the money into the house anyway. Why don't you just buy a place? But I don't know. It's
what I'm answering every time is say, okay, if I wanted to buy the place with the prices now and what I'm paying for the rent, it's the equivalent of 7 years. So let's say I pay the rent for even 5 years. So what is the proportion of 5 compared to 70? It's still, if after 5 years I decide to buy it, I won't regret that much because I still have 65 more to, you know what I mean? It's,
well,
the ratio is too high.
Yeah, and that was just a chart of the most expensive cities in the world in terms of real estate industry. And well, to many Chinese people, basically, those are just numbers. You know? It's not around us. But next, we're going to show you a picture of how expensive Chinese cities are in real estate after a short break.
Keeping your problems to yourself only takes you further and further down. Just give us a call. No matter what your problem is, we're always here to listen. The Samaritans, 2896 0000.
And welcome back to Crossover. And next we're going to show you the picture showing how expensive Chinese real estate can be in 10 cities, the top 10 cities. Just take a look.
Huh. So I remember
Well,
that.
the most expensive place in China, Shenzhen in southern China. So it's about 3,000 or less than 4,000 US dollars.
Average.
Average.
Yes.
And next one is Shanghai.
Shanghai.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Beijing's
it's
not
similar.
far.
I'm sure Beijing's third.
Beijing will,
Is it third?
will come next.
Definitely, it's very close.
Ah,
Yes.
there we go.
And Hangzhou?
Hangzhou, wow.
Hangzhou is not far from Shanghai. It's only about a 1 hour's train,
Yes,
high-speed
now
train.
that the high-speed train is going, that'll
Yeah.
probably go up.
And many other cities are not in that chart, but following Hangzhou, it's Sanya. Sanya is the city in Hainan province, in the southernmost province.
Southern
Famous
city.
for its resorts.
It's been known as like
Tropical resorts.
it's one of the they say it's one of the cleanest city, like the air quality is one of
Okay.
the best in the world.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's very much a tourist city.
Yes.
And next is Wenzhou.
In Zhejiang.
Zhejiang.
That's where the wealthy people are.
Wenzhou is known for all these small business SMEs.
Yes.
And they have a tradition, a long tradition.
Do you know that 70% of the world's underwear is made in the Zhejiang province around Wenzhou?
And do you realize, nearly 90 to 99% of the pipes, all the pipes that
Really?
we, in drinking, they come from my place, my hometown.
Really?
And leather bags and
Shoes.
shoes.
Wenzhou
and,
is famous for its shoes.
And
as
Christmas
well.
presents.
Christmas
Yeah,
ornaments.
80% maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Crazy.
And Guangzhou. Next is Guangzhou, for the host city for the this is Asian Games. And then Ningbo, another
Also
city in Zhejiang
Zhejiang.
province in East China.
Yeah, so Zhejiang has how many was
You have
that?
30%.
Hangzhou,
Wenzhou
Wenzhou,
and
Ningbo.
You have
Three
30%
cities.
of the top 10.
And next it's Nanjing.
Where I grew up.
Yeah, Nanjing, it's 3 hours train further north to Shanghai.
Yes.
So do your
in
parents own
Jiangsu.
property in Nanjing?
You know, we used to.
You sold when
And
you shouldn't
when
have?
my parents used to, and then when we moved to Beijing, they sold their apartment
Do they
there.
regret now?
I don't think they
You know-
think
you know-
about it.
you know, my
can't
my
regret
mom-
that kind of thing.
No, you don't.
I
No,
mean,
it's
that
a
would
waste
drive
of
you
time.
crazy.
My mom regrets because when I just came to China, it was 10 years ago, and I told her, real estate prices are going to go up here, and they could have sold something and bought, and now they have grown more than 10 times. My mother, so many times, I so regret that.
And the city in the 10th place is Fuzhou, the capital city.
I used to live there. I spent 6 months there.
Right.
My first year.
My dad was born
So
there.
what do you get? What do you get from a chart like this? A list of cities: Shenzhen, Shanghai, Beijing, Hangzhou, Sanya, Wenzhou, Guangzhou, Ningbo, Nanjing, and Fuzhou.
What do you get from a list like this?
Not
you
as
compare-
high as Monte Carlo.
No,
Yeah, exactly. What's the thing is that you still can buy property in Beijing, Shanghai, or Shenzhen. It will still go up.
But I do think something that's worth pointing out is I don't know if you have the statistics, but how quickly the prices have grown in these cities. We might look at them now and think 5,000 US, 4,000 US a square meter. That's nothing compared to Monte Carlo, to Paris, to New York, to London. But
Yeah.
10 years ago, like what you were saying, they were a fraction of what they are today.
In many cities, it's been doubled already.
Oh, tripled,
doubled.
quadrupled.
Think of Beijing 10 years ago. It was really 1/10 of the price now.
And so that kind of growth that you see over such a short period of time, but such a large growth.
I'm thinking India
Is
too.
very
Because look at, China doesn't even have a city in the top 20 of the most expensive real estate, but India has Mumbai at number 9, I think. It's unbelievable because India, as a whole market, is not as powerful as China, and you see that
It's true.
at least the way we see it without living there, it appears that they have the economic development is not as fast as China, but
What
unbelievable.
Yeah, and what I've noticed actually in this chart is we only talk about these, say, the first tier of cities, but actually in this list we have some small cities, though they're not small at all in terms of population, in terms of the economic level there. But some second tiers of cities, including like Wenzhou, Ningbo. Fuzhou is capital city anyway.
It's a capital city, but the Fujian province is not as wealthy as...
So it's like a wave of increase of housing prices going from the first tier to the second tier. We don't know what's going to happen next. Maybe third tier, inland cities even.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and you have places, you have what they call 直辖市 in Chinese, which is like municipalities, independent cities like Chongqing and
Shanghai,
Tianjin. And Tianjin, well, we had Shanghai on the list, but Tianjin and Chongqing are not on the list. And Tianjin is a little closer, but I think Chongqing is still far away. So there's room for...
You're saying you would regret if you don't buy any houses in Tianjin in 10 years' time?
I'm thinking about it. I have friends in the business, so...
Worth thinking about. A friend of mine's from Lanzhou, the capital of Gansu province, which is in northwestern China, not known for its extreme development or, you know, it's not a hugely international city, but just real estate prices there have quadrupled, I think, in just the past few years.
I mean, we're not economists.
So,
we don't know the professional backgrounds behind it, but if you, you know, make a comment on why it's been happening this way, what would it be? And if you can try to find a reason behind all the increase, all the boosts of the prices, what would be the reason? Demand.
I mean, people have more means to buy, you know, get loans to buy apartments.
Well,
Demand's higher.
The thing is, cities like Beijing and Shanghai, they are, compared to the whole Chinese population, it's not many houses that they have there. And so there's still a lot of people who can afford to buy those really expensive houses. So it's a real problem too. One of the reasons why the government is kind of getting in the mix of all that, because if you let the economy lead the way, you will have so many average Chinese people who work really hard all their life and can't really afford all those places, who never can afford an apartment or a house. And whereas you have all those, we have been talking about the owners of mines or whatever they are, you know, gold mines or coal mines or whatever,
kind of
that come to Beijing and buy a whole building or I want that floor, and especially they choose the good directions, usually directed south. You know, sometimes they come here and buy, you know, so many houses and they don't live there.
In other words, these mine owners, they are rich and they don't have that many ways to invest their money. So
this is another thing.
This is the way.
Well, and this deserves to be highlighted, that the phenomenon of these mine owners, you know, it sounds like it would be a very small number of people, and it's not a great number of people, but the power that they wield in the real estate market here is, like you were saying,
it's pretty big, but
huge.
I can't remember now. I was with somebody from that business a while ago who was saying how they were not the biggest power and the biggest problem. There were another bunch of rich people who were actually influencing the market much more, but I can't remember. It was a little complicated, but it's true that what a lot of people do is what we call in Chinese 炒房, speculating.
Yeah.
So what basically they're doing, let's say you can have, okay, you put the first, you pay 30% of the house to begin with. So you're 30. Let's say it's a 1 million house, and you the down payment. That's what you say. So the down payment is 300,000. You put 300,000, then the price goes up, go up, and then after a while you can sell it and then get back. Let's say you earn, including the money you borrowed first, and you get 600,000 back. Or if you get 300, now you have 300,000 back. Let's say you make 300,000, then you can borrow another 300,000. And your first down payment, you buy a house that is double the size.
600,000.
600,000 down payment, and you go up and up and up like that, and then you always make one time more the money.
Yeah, but
every time.
Another way to do it is actually, just now we talked about the city of Wenzhou in East China, and there are a group of people who are actually professionals in this way, like the market speculators or housing speculators. They would, it would be a group of 10-something people. How many people altogether in the group? They would just go to one place and basically they would decide to buy maybe half or even how many apartments altogether. And when the price goes up, and for a certain time, they'll sell all the houses again.
And that's very
make a profit.
And that's very tough because this also influences the market. This can make shares go up
Really,
and down really fast
So
sometimes.
it's like how you do it in the stock market.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's yeah.
What they have done in Shanghai, and I'm sure maybe they're doing that in other cities in China, because a lot of people used to do that. They started to forbid people to own more than 2 houses or apartment, 2 properties. So what people would do is use the name of somebody in the family. And now they start to forbid to have more than 1 property in 1 family.
Yes.
We've been talking about the housing prices in China, how expensive it can be in all these different cities in China. I mean, once again, we're not professionals, we're not economists, and we're not trying to find out,
Right. The point isn't to analyze the Chinese real estate market.
We're just trying to give out our observations.
Yes.
But it's true that the government, one thing in China is that the government has been trying to control the thing.
At least the speed of the prices going up too quickly.
Yes.
It's actually the only thing the government can do is control the speed. They cannot control the market, the economy. You cannot control that.
So what are the new policies introduced by the government in many cities? Because it varies.
And they're always changing too. I mean, there are always new policies
but
coming
it's
in.
only getting stricter and stricter.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, wealthy people are smart too. So every time the government gets
We'll see. We'll see. And, policy 1, one family can only buy 1 new apartment in 1 city.
I remember that.
A new apartment, not including the second-handed ones.
And wasn't there a policy, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you've taken a mortgage or a loan in buying 1 apartment, you can't take a second loan out for a second apartment?
No, you can. For the second, yes, you can, but you need to pay, for the first lot, is half of the price.
Oh,
of the
down
total
payment
price.
would be 50%, as
50%.
opposed to 30%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the interest rate will be increased by 10%.
By 10%.
Yes. And for the third apartment, no loans at all.
Okay. Okay.
So yes.
But the thing is, I mean, if these are the rich people, okay, no loans,
I was
no
going
loans.
to say, if we're talking about being able to buy 3 apartments, probably people who can afford to do that have the money to not.
Yeah, so that's why maybe, for 1 family, you're only allowed to buy 1 house. And, okay, just now you were saying, what about I borrow your ID and then you buy 1 house for me in your name?
That's the
And
thing.
you can make that arrangement in the family, right? Okay, but if you do not live in the city, if you take the case of Beijing, if you do not live in the city, then you have to prove that you've been paying tax in this city for over 1 year before you can buy any houses in the city.
Which is also usually easy for wealthy people because it's easy to have a small company in Beijing running there with even 1 or 2 people and having your name out there. And that's all you need. And most of those people have that,
Yeah, I mean, at least it's not, everyone can do that. I mean, that is a control on the price.
They make it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
maybe instead of investing in real estate, you would go invest somewhere else.
And these are the policies introduced by the government to try to control the price, but is it working properly?
Well, as properly as it can.
Yeah.
I mean, like we've been saying, it's not something you can really control 100%.
We don't know if it is working properly on the prices yet, but these say the real estate developers, they feel the pressure, and that's why they've introduced some weird ways of trying to sell their houses these days.
Which are?
The first one, I put it in say this is the Armani way. That means all these salespersons, they were salespeople, they were dressed in Armanis, real Armanis. So they're trying to give a signal, okay, we are dressed in Armani, so how come the quality is not good? How come you're not buying any high quality apartments in my place?
How countryside is that?
Yeah, so it's a little.
Yeah.
It's well, yeah.
Ridiculous.
We can wear our money, so you should buy our property.
I don't know. I guess they're saying, okay, even our salespersons.
It's a method.
Yeah.
It shows how poorly, I don't know, educated or how.
Well, no, well, not necessarily. They're desperate to sell their property.
Okay, they're desperate to sell the properties.
It's only about the selling techniques or marketing strategy.
Yeah,
well, it's a little extreme.
There are also new trends, new developments. One is when these big cities have introduced new policies of restricting people from buying houses in these places. They would go to, say, the second tiers of cities or third tiers of cities where you don't have these policies. You know, they want to invest money. So it's other places.
And that could also be why we're seeing in the list of the top 10 cities, you know, why we're seeing some second-tier cities
that are going up
because everyone's moving from Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen and going into smaller cities.
And not only in China.
Yeah.
They're actually going out to other countries. They're buying houses in America, and Australia, and London, and all these places.
And also what you can do now is, I know in Canada there are so many Chinese people, and one way of actually immigrating there is to invest. And if you invest up to a certain amount of money,
you get citizenship.
Yeah, you get citizenship.
Yeah.
These are the rich people. What about average people? We can't even afford a small, tiny place in my own city.
Let me tell you what France has been doing. In Paris, a lot of the official people, especially from the government, who had even like one apartment that they didn't use in Paris, a lot of that has been taken back.
But those are, say, the private properties. How can you just take it back?
Well, if it's private property, of course you can't like force them to. But the thing is, once you put that in the mainstream media everywhere, those people are elected by the people,
and they feel the pressure to get rid of.
They have to do something.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in China, it's not the problem of the officials, but the rich people who have like 20 apartments, all those whatever owners. And we should do something about this. There are a lot of empty places in Beijing and Shanghai. A lot.
Yeah, there are.
We don't know. You know,
I know.
Unlikely it's going to happen. You know, you just take personal properties away, not for